Welcome, everyone, to the CXNOW Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Gold, and today I'm speaking with the beautiful and the brilliant Cate Marques, Chief Experience Officer at Terra Kaffe. So you all know Terra Kaffe. It is an amazing brand. They've turned coffee from a product into a lifestyle experience, so much of which is because of Cate's hard work. So I can definitely relate to needing a coffee experience and a ritual. So I love working with this brand and have been lucky enough. Cate and I have hit the stage together a couple different times. So I'm so excited for today. Cate, thank you so much for being here. We are going to talk specifically around CX at the executive level. Cate, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and I'll take any excuse to chat with you, Lauren. We could go all day,
We
but
could go all day.
anybody's got that attention span.
Yes, we promise to make it impactful, but if anyone needs a repeat, Cate and I are your girls.
Love it. I'm here for it.
Okay, so I mean, really, I am always so in awe of your journey at Terra Kaffe. Like you've told us about the early days and how you've kind of grown the entire experience team and how Terra Kaffe has evolved and the customer experience they bring. So I'd love to just hear more personally from you, like your journey rising to the top as an executive within CX. I mean, you're absolutely a brand out there just in and of itself. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, it's flown by. It's crazy, and I'm coming up on my 6-year anniversary at Terra Kaffe, which blows my mind. I started right at the start of the pandemic, and I didn't know what I was getting into. I got connected to the founder and CEO through a former colleague, and they were like, "Do you want to come on board and help us build the next thing in coffee?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, I drink coffee. Sure, I'm qualified for this." Had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was the second team member. I'd been in early stage startups in the past, but I had never worked in the hardware space. I had never worked in the coffee space, actually not even worked in the e-comm space. I think it was one of those things that, like, had you told me then what my role would have become, I would have told you, like, you've got the wrong girl. Like, that's not me. I'm not an executive. I don't even really know my way around CX in the D2C space or in the e-com space. I showed up, right? And my journey to the top, so to speak, has been a series of showing up, looking around, seeing what is it that needs to be done today, and being willing to get my hands dirty and learn really quickly. And I think to thrive, one, in CX, but also in the early stage company world, ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, it requires a willingness to just, as they always say, wear many hats, but more broadly, just like learn how to do new stuff every day. So when I started at TK, I was one of 3 people, including the founder. We didn't have CX. We had a Gmail inbox. Our support line was my cell phone. It was, Christmas. If it was 11 p.m., if it was a time that I was awake, our phone lines were open. If you emailed, it was me. If I said, "Oh, let me circle back with our product team," that was also me. It started super scrappy, and to be honest with you, it's stayed super scrappy. Like, we've obviously grown since then, and we now have been working with customer for the last 4.5 years, and that has actually seen us through several iterations of CX, from when we were, just a few of us all in a little tiny space in Brooklyn, to a much larger team, to moving toward a BPO team. But I think the consistent thing as it pertains to my journey into an executive role has been meeting the moment. What does the moment require? What does the company need now? What does our community need now? And just doing my best to kind of figure that out a day at a time. And that paired with, like, being in the right place at the right time and getting lucky, because there is, like, just nowhere you can grow as quickly as you can in an early stage company.
Like, hits home so much. I love how you say, like, just showing up, because I think that so many people are looking for like the silver bullet or the answer or a perfectly mapped out journey. And I think it hits home because, like, just showing up and caring about what you're doing and having an impact regardless of role, title, space, size of company. Like, if you show up, I believe good things will happen for your career.
Yeah. When I started, there was, like, kind of a vague job description, but had I allowed my role to be defined by that, it wouldn't have happened. This growth trajectory I've been on wouldn't have happened. Like, what did happen was that I saw something needed to be done, and whether or not it was within my defined roles and responsibilities, if it needed to be done, like there was just nobody else to do it. It had to be me or it wasn't going to happen. So I think, that's one thing that I think a lot of CX leaders can learn from, right? Like you're never going to hear yes if you don't at least ask.
Yeah. And gosh, like startups definitely have a way of keeping, I say like humble and hungry.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
which is a great place to be. Like you're learning every day, contributing every day, and if you're lucky, maybe having some fun along the way too.
If you want to grow, there has never been a world that I've seen, at least in startups, where if you want to become a manager, you get the promotion and then you start operating at the level of manager. No, you operate at that level and you do it for a while and you try to make an impact and then you will be rewarded with the growth. You gotta put the work in before the title or the comp or the, whatever is granted upon you.
Yes, yes. In so many cases, you're kind of already doing the role before you step into it.
Absolutely.
And speaking of humble and hungry, startups definitely have a way of kind of leveling the playing field, right? Which is what I love about it, because like those people that are so willing to show up and to really have an impact are the ones like yourself that just kind of pave this amazing path for themselves through a lot of grit and hard work. So, okay, so you started your journey at Terra Kaffe, and then about 4 years ago, crossed into the C-suite as Chief Experience Officer. Tell me more about that. Like, was there a change when that happened, a shift that you felt where you kind of could really represent the customer experience you had created and built?
It really starts at the beginning of the company, right? And for anybody that's not familiar, we sell very high-end bean to cup espresso machines. This is a category that has long been dominated by the same 5 or 6 players that are on average like over 100 years old, these brands, right? They've kind of coasted on the legacy that they've built. And I'm super grateful for them for building this space and popularizing home espresso. That being said, when you are selling $1,000, $2,000 machine and you're up against these incumbents that have just general familiarity with brand name, if you want to convince people that this is the right move for them, you don't have a choice but to listen to your customers. And that spans the entire customer journey, right? Pre-purchase, what are they saying? Why would they ever take a risk on this young, relatively unknown brand, especially with such a large investment? But then post-purchase too, right? Like what are the pain points? What can we solve for? For us, it was always about what are we going to build next? And that's come from insights we've gleaned from our community on, previous generations. So I think from the very early days, I had a little bit of a leg up, right? Because we didn't have a choice. We had to listen to our customers in order to sell anything. And our founder recognized that. I think there's a reason why the first hire he made was CX. That gave me a good springboard when I got here, right? I had founder buy-in from the beginning. And I also got here really early. So we built a really solid relationship of trust where it wasn't a question of like, how do I get him to pay attention to what I'm saying? It was really more of like how do I make it a total no-brainer for him?
Yeah.
And from there, we kind of just built naturally on that. I was here early. I built a lot of the company alongside him. So I had the finger on the pulse of what our community was saying, what they wanted. I had his buy-in, like all of the pieces were there. And I think that's why I was able to kind of rise through the ranks quickly, right? As we built it out, as long as I kept coming back and I kept proving the value that our community could bring to the business, I was given a continued seat at the table. It's hard, and I do definitely feel for CX leaders that are coming into brands that don't have that kind of buy-in from the beginning. The job is hard, but I think what needs to be done is proving that listening to the customer will benefit the business. And I think people in the CX world, especially in leadership roles, we have a very difficult role. It's like wearing two different masks, right? Because to your customer, you're the face of the business. You're saying, these are the policies, this is the timeline, this is whatever. But then to the business, you're the face of the customer. And it's really like, how do you merge those two worlds into one kind of cohesive narrative that doesn't position the business versus the customer? And that is hard because often what the customer wants are things that will cost the business money. So it's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna for it's amazing that you and the founder have that relationship, and like kudos to him for like having the foresight to understand like how critical that would be for your brand. and for making such an important hire and choosing so well. For those CX leaders, what's some advice that you give them, maybe if they don't feel they have a seat at the table or where to begin? We know what we need as CX leaders, but how do we translate that to something meaningful?
I love that question because it is something I'm asked often. It's also something I've had to think about often because while I have my founders buy-in, it is something that I've received skepticism from investors or business partners just asking, why is somebody from CX in your board meeting? Why is somebody from CX in this meeting with a prospective business partner? And what it comes down to beyond just articulating the value that listening to your community can bring to the business, how do I distill metrics and KPIs in a way that actually makes sense to the finance team, to an investor, to somebody that we're potentially considering partnering with for manufacturing? And also, what is the value to them? And this is something that's gotten a lot easier now in the age of AI because what I have started doing in the last couple of years is like, let me throw that into Claude or into ChatGPT and like tailor these metrics in a way that will be best received by X, whether that's my engineering team, whether that's my product team. We run pretty frequent customer surveys and we get a ton of contextual information. And I love that. But we know from being in the CX world, a lot of what we operate in is qualitative. So, how do we, one, turn that into something quantitative, but two, tailor that for the audience, make it as easy as possible for them to digest and understand what's the natural language, right? Because if I'm saying our customers are expressing a little bit of hesitation about this new feature we just rolled out, like my finance team does not care. They want to know what is feedback on this feature doing to our return rate, or what is the potential exposure if we were to not, fix this bug in our recent software launch, right? So it's articulating the value, but also putting it in their terms, in their language, in a way that makes it so easy for them to understand that they feel like I'm just giving them information and kind of like backing them away, when in reality, like I'm kind of guiding them to my point of view. But yeah, just making it easy for them.
Yeah, I like that. And tailoring it for the different personas is such a pro tip there because it's hard. Like just like when you're a CSM or, a support expert, like you're in the trenches every day, all day. Like, it's so cold, but sometimes translating that to what's meaningful to others is hard. And it feels obvious to us, but I love that idea of catering it to the
And
different
it's
personas.
exactly what marketing teams have been doing since the dawn of time. And now AI has made that so easy for us.
My gosh, Kate, I have been knee deep in Claude and I'm having the time of my life. And like to your point, like building all of these reports and like pulling from these different systems and analyzing account segments or certain behavior that we're trying to track has just been such a game changer.
The richness of the information that we can get now, like we've run customer surveys for as long as I've been here. And it used to be all multiple choice. There was one fill in at the end because I would have to be the one going through all these answers and categorizing them. So I'm like, all right, everybody gets these like pre-bucketed answers and they just have to choose one. Nowadays, I'm like, oh, everything is a free ride. Because now I will just give it to Claude and it's great. It's revolutionized our ability to quantify things that could not have been quantified and also just go a level deeper and a level deeper and a level deeper. It's blowing my mind. It's made my life so much more enjoyable.
I feel the exact same way. And, there was always like those blockers of, oh, it'd be great if I could understand the data this way. But, the systems are
Yes.
now it's kind of like you're really just limited to your imagination and creativity of what you would hope to understand from all of your customers or consumers.
Yep.
And now, yeah, the insights are really incredible.
Absolutely.
So, on the flip side, what risk do you think businesses face when they do not have a CX leader at the table?
The risks are massive, and I see it frequently with founders and marketing teams. I think businesses are built or marketing campaigns are launched with an idea of who companies want their customers to be. Right? Like I'm going to build this for this person. And sometimes that's true, right? And the stars align and your target customer is your actual customer and it's a beautiful thing. It almost never happens though, right? Because for those of us doing business in the United States, we live in a pretty diverse country. racially, socioeconomically. So that means that often the people that are actually buying whatever you're selling are not necessarily who you think they're going to be or who you even want them to be. And I think about even in the early days of TK, right? Like I always think about this one social post we had because we would of course like every brand track all the metrics and the engagement on everything we post on Instagram. And we posted this one. It was just an exterior shot of the Berlin Museum of Art. And it got no engagement. And I'm thinking, I'm like, why is this? And I'm like, one, people don't know what that building is. Two, people don't care. We're a coffee brand, right? Like, and yes, of course, you want to position yourself as an aspirational brand, but there's definitely a tipping point where you go way too aspirational and not at all accessible and you alienate your core customer. So I think that's risk number one, right? If you're not listening to your customers, if you're not listening to your CX leaders when they tell you who your customers are, you may miss the mark entirely. And then you're churning out creative and assets that are not going to land. The second thing, which is a lot more literal, when that happens, you shortchange yourself literally of revenue that you might otherwise be getting. If you understand who your customer is, you can better market to your customer, whether that's recurring revenue or securing net new customers. Your customer acquisition costs will skyrocket because you just have to do more work to get people to get your brand and want to give you their hard-earned dollars. People vote with their dollars on everything. Ultimately, if you don't understand who your customer is because you're not listening to your CX team, you are going to continue to build things that don't land. You're certainly not going to get to a point where you can make the customer journey end to end as smooth and painless as possible for people. You might sell a product, but you're never going to become a brand. And that is what is really going to help, especially newer companies, stand apart. People are getting marketed to thousands of times a day, and it's so easy to get lost in the noise. But if you know who your customer is, you can really start to build yourself into something bigger than just a product that solves a problem. You can start to build yourself into a brand. And that's when you can build a real community because people aren't going to make communities that will kind of become flywheels for themselves, or they're not going to go and like tell their friends, you have to check out this like amazing new thing I discovered, if they don't feel that emotional connection. And that lives and dies within the CX part of the org. So you gotta give people a seat at the table or you're shortchanging your company if you don't.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned something that made me think also, like around the having a seat at the table, but also like the product to CX feedback loop, because like you mentioned, it's hardware, it's software, and then it's also like the customer experience. And like maybe how do you think about bringing that feedback to be beneficial, obviously, to like the end consumer, but then also like bringing the product to market and making sure the product team feels like part of that journey if they're not customer facing? Like, how do you think about that?
I'm thinking about that a lot these days. Are currently in product development for a brand new flagship product that I cannot say very much about yet. But what is cool, and we've kind of seen this work well for our TK2, which we designed from the ground up, as well as our Demi, our two other hero products. I get to be in the room for all of those conversations with our industrial design firm, with our manufacturing partners, anything we're talking about internally. It's this like magical combination of things, right? When you understand how your community is reacting to whatever it is you currently have in market, you can say they really love this element. This is a pain point. It can help you iterate on whatever it is you're going to be building next. But I think as it pertains to product teams and engineering teams in particular, it goes back to like, let's make this really easy to understand. It's tough, right? There's a lot of tough conversations that happen because whether it's an engineer or a product lead, they often just like really want to build cool shit. And
Yes.
it could be so hard to say like, yeah, that would be really cool, but our customer isn't going to care. So it's also a willingness to have those tough conversations on behalf of your customer so that you can prioritize the things that they will care about. It's being willing to have hard conversations. It's knowing the limits and trying to take off your own blinders, which is really
Yeah.
hard to do. Oh, and it's just, constantly coming at everything with a lens toward like, how is this actually going to be used or consumed or whatever in the real world?
sounds like you all are lucky enough to have such a great dynamic, but maybe more broadly, kind of in the industry, what do you think some misconceptions are out there that executives have about CX?
Gosh, I mean, the classic one, right, is that CX is just a cost center. It can
Out.
be, but I think that's the biggest one is like almost treating CX as a necessary evil, right? How little can we invest into CX without getting our heads shoot off by the internet? So it's this like fundamental misconception that is antiquated, right? Like, yes, back in the day, you could get away with almost, anonymous like triage call centers and just not think about it anymore. In the age of the internet, everybody has a platform, right? It goes far beyond just like, okay, I'm collecting site reviews and I get a bad one. It's, what are people saying on ads they happen to see? What are people saying from the comfort of the anonymity of Reddit? What are people saying to friends and family? If your business is one that can really thrive via word of mouth, like what's happening in those conversations that you can't monitor at all? And I think there's been this like slow move toward seeing CX as a revenue driver, not just because of like our ability to upsell or, tell people like, go experience the latest and greatest, here's a discount code. It's about something bigger than that, right? It's about how does your brand feel? How do people feel in their journey end to end? Are you encouraging them to go and share a referral code with their friend who really, came over to their house and loved the coffee? So I do think we're moving in that direction. I think another misconception is lack of understanding as to the skill it takes to do the job well, particularly on the part of the teams on the ground floor. And just kind of the emotional fortitude it takes to kind of not know what's coming at you minute by minute, but also able to relentlessly show up as an ambassador for the brand. CX teams are doing like a million things. It's okay, I have to adhere to this SOP that just changed. I have to remember to tag this ticket in the way that just changed. I have to de-escalate this customer conversation. And at the same time, I have this like queue of tickets that is ever lengthening. It takes tremendous skill, incredible like neuroplasticity to be able to kind of go from task to task to task. I think there are people at the executive level that think CX, it's an entry level position. Anybody could do it. I'm like, get on the phone, prove it.
I agree. A tremendous amount of just resilience and showing up, like you said, every day. Is there any maybe common threads that you can pull out where you can either recognize a brand that does not appreciate CX or maybe any like warning signs as to like, eek, you're in a tough spot because your business does not value what's taking place?
To circle back to the beginning of the conversation, it's whether or not somebody from CX has a seat at the table, right? Brands can say they're customer centric till they're blue in the face, but what does that actually mean? Whether or not your company is able to provide like quote unquote good CX will differ wildly based on like stage of company capitalization. For example, I have an Aura ring. I love it. And I saw a post on LinkedIn the other day that somebody was like, I'm an Aura ring girl for life. Like I'm outside warranty and they gave me a replacement ring and that's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, totally. It is amazing. But like, let us remember two key things. One, Aura is not making money on the rings or making money on the subscription. Their interest is in keeping you as a subscriber. Two, Aura is tremendously well capitalized, right? So they can afford to lay out money to keep a customer within their ecosystem because they're also, they're getting all of our data. And this is not to say that Aura doesn't care about customer experience, but my point is like, it is hard to say what it means that a brand like doesn't care about CX without taking into account stage and capitalization. And also just like what business are they in? But to go back to what I was saying at the beginning, this is a very circuitous path I'm taking. Thanks for hanging with me. It's whether CX has a seat at the table.
Yeah.
It's whether's because you can do that at any stage, at any level of capitalization. It's whether you are actually invested in the people that are talking to your customers day in and day out. And I don't care if you are giving everybody in your ecosystem free shit. If there is not somebody from CX in the rooms where decisions are made, you don't care.
Yeah. I like that. Okay. Last question. What advice would you give a CX leader who wants their voice to be heard in executive leadership discussions? This is like the big wrap up.
So the first couple of things are what I said at the beginning, right? Make information easy to digest, tailor it to your audience. If you want to, have an edge in those conversations, learn what they care about, right? What's driving them? What are their department's KPIs and how can you contribute to helping them hit those? And this is like something I've had to deal with pretty recently, right? Like we were seeing customer acquisition costs go up, and I had to take to my finance team, like, the idea of let's be a little bit more liberal in replacing people's machines as opposed to repairing their machines. And they're like, well, why? That's going to cost us money. And I'm like, yeah, but we're seeing customer acquisition costs go up because we've had these couple of people have negative experiences that are now posting about those experiences. Other people are seeing them. They're likely somewhere in our funnel. And if they see that, they're not going to purchase, right? So if we can kind of stop here, say, let's just prevent these negative experiences from occurring, we're going to boost public sentiment and thus reduce CAC. And like, yes, it's a longer ROI, but ultimately I'm speaking in a language they understand. Like, I think for those of us that are thriving in the CX world, like we already know how to do that. We do it with customers every single day. So let's just use that same skill set internally.
Yeah.
And I think in those instances, the other members of the organization will naturally see the value that CX can bring, not just to their areas of the business, but to the business as a whole. And you will just get a lot more context, a lot more info. And it just becomes this virtuous cycle of like, okay, now with this additional info, I can make an even greater impact until you're sitting in board meetings.
I love it. Well, I can't thank you enough. I always learn so much spending time with you. Your journey is so inspiring always. And the community's lucky to have you out there helping us kind of raise the bar as CX leaders. So thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. See you soon.
Talk soon.